everyone, welcome to the KidneyX Artificial Kidney Prize. We're just going to wait a few minutes to let others join into the call, and then we'll begin shortly. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're just waiting for a few more attendees to join, so we will start in a couple of minutes. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to the KidneyX Artificial Kidney Prize information session. We're really excited to get started today. Just a few things up top. My name is Julia Key. I'm an associate at Luminary Labs, which is a strategy and innovation consulting firm, and we are acting as the prize administrator for this challenge on behalf of KidneyX and the team at HHS and the American Society for Nephrology. Before we begin, I wanted to give a quick introduction of the Zoom features. We do have a Q&A feature on the bottom control panel on your screen, and we will have a Q&A session at the end of our speech. If you have any questions during the session or as I'm talking, please enter your questions there. We'll be monitoring the Q&A box as well as the chat to pull any of your questions ahead of time and then answer as many as we can at the end. If you get disconnected from the audio line or anything, we also have a dial-in reference in the email that you received earlier from Eventbrite and from KidneyX. So without further ado, I'll start our presentation. So here is a quick overview of our session. First, we'll start off with brief introductions from the KidneyX team members who are joining us today. Then this will be followed by an overview of the origin and objectives of the Artificial Kidney Prize, including how it's distinct from previous initiatives from KidneyX. Next, we'll go into more specific details of phase 1 requirements and how to submit. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we will close with a Q&A session to answer your questions. So again, a plug, as we're continuing, feel free to ask any questions in the Q&A box and we'll answer them as we move along. So it's my absolute pleasure to start with the introductions from the KidneyX team members. They'll be here to share information and answer questions at the end of the call. I'd first love to introduce Dr. Cedar, who is the chair of the KidneyX steering committee, as well as an active physical scientist with the Cleveland Clinic. Dr. Cedar?
Hi, it's great to be here today. My name is John Cedar. I'm a nephrologist at the Cleveland Clinic, and I've been involved in the antecedents to KidneyX for almost a decade now, and in 2019 became chair of the steering committee. And I'm really excited to kick off the Artificial Kidney Prize today.
Thanks, Dr. Cedar. Next, I'm pleased to introduce Anne Rohal. She's the KidneyX project director from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Anne, I think you are muted, unfortunately.
There we go. Sorry about that, everybody. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm here on behalf, as mentioned, HHS, on behalf of Secretary Alex Azar, our Deputy Secretary Eric Hargan, and Admiral Brett Joie, who's our Assistant Secretary of Health, and also a physician. Obviously, they would have liked to have participated today, but their resources are elsewhere, focused on a pandemic. KidneyX has been a huge priority for the Trump administration and for HHS. And we're thrilled with this groundbreaking, truly remarkable public-private partnership with ASN, and grateful to our partners at Luminary Labs for helping us get this far. There are lots of people who have worked on KidneyX before me, and hopefully many will come after. But I wanted just to say that I'm personally and professionally passionate about kidney innovation. As a living kidney donor to my daughter, when I first learned that she was in renal failure, I was really surprised to learn that dialysis would only buy her a finite number of years, 5 years at the max, I was told. So fortunately for her, she was able to receive a living donation from me, but I'm keenly aware that there are so many others, less fortunate without access to good medical care who won't have this kind of outcome. So we need to do more, and it's people that are participating on this webinar and in this competition who are going to do that. So I'm truly grateful to everyone, and thanks for letting me be here.
Thanks, Anne. Yeah, really appreciate you sharing that and really putting the Artificial Kidney Prize into perspective for all of us, and glad to have a representative from Department of Health and Human Services here. Next, I'd love to introduce Mark Lim. I think he just dropped off the call, but as a quick introduction, he is the Vice President at the American Society of Nephrology, and he's been a crucial part of the team on developing KidneyX and developing the Artificial Kidney Prize. And he'll be here to answer questions at the end of the call as well. So with that, I'll hand it over to Dr. Cedar, again, the chair of the KidneyX steering committee, to provide an overview of KidneyX and the Artificial Kidney Prize.
Thank you, Julia. I think just to start out, Anne nicely set the stage defining why we need this prize to be successful. Patients are waiting for innovative treatments for kidney failure and advanced chronic kidney disease. And one of the primary goals of KidneyX is to achieve that result for the patients. For those of you who are new to KidneyX, the Kidney Innovation Accelerator is a public-private partnership between the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the American Society of Nephrology. It was established in 2018 and aims to accelerate innovation in the prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of kidney disease, with an overarching goal to really improve the lives of the 850 million people worldwide who are affected by kidney diseases. Next slide, Julia. As I think the people that are on this call, and as Anne nicely articulated, innovation is urgently needed, and we believe it's possible. Millions of people are really waiting for a breakthrough in the treatment of kidney failure. Most recent estimates for the United States are that roughly 14% of the population has chronic kidney disease. This is roughly 37 million people. And people living with kidney disease eventually will progress to kidney failure, and they'll require kidney replacement therapies, either as bridges to transplantation or as lifelong solutions. As many of you know, transplants and dialysis are currently the standard treatment for patients experiencing end-stage renal failure, but there are challenges with these solutions. There are a limited number of viable kidney transplants. Not everybody who has kidney failure is eligible for a kidney transplant. And dialysis has not really changed significantly over the last 60 years. While it's life-saving and critical that we're able to do this, um, over the mortality rate for people that are on dialysis is roughly 40% within the first 3 years of treatment. So we're really looking for innovative, long-lasting solutions to address the needs for this population. Again, as I know everybody that's joined this call knows, the kidneys are incredibly complex organs. There's at least 26 different cell types, more are actually being discovered. And to effectively replace all the functions that are provided by the kidney, we're going to need multidisciplinary teams of innovators to collaboratively develop solutions to deal with this problem. Next slide, please, Julia. Just before we get to the Artificial Kidney Prize, to tell you some of the activities of KidneyX since its initiation in 2018. We've launched 2 redesigned dialysis, phase 1 and 2, that focused on improvements to existing dialysis technologies and practices. Roughly 170 people applied for redialysis. Phase 1, 15 winners were announced. And then this year, there were 6 winners for redesigned dialysis phase 2 were announced in July. There were 71 applications for that particular competition. More information is available on the KidneyX website. We've also sponsored a patient innovator challenge. The winners were announced at the National Kidney Foundation meeting last March, and this prize was made possible by a generous contribution from the National Kidney Foundation, for which we are grateful. In addition to the Artificial Kidney Prize, we're also running a COVID-19 Kidney Care Challenge. More of this is also available, information is available on the website. And it's really focusing on developing implementable solutions to prevent the spread of COVID-19 among patients with kidney failure and staff that take care of them. The Artificial Kidney Prize is distinct from previous challenges in that it focuses solely on the development of transformational artificial kidney solutions that go beyond current dialysis practices. Next slide, please. Thanks. So here are the objectives of the Kidney Prize. It's to provide transformational treatment options beyond current dialysis methods as part of a multi-phase international competition. These are solutions that would radically improve the quality of life for people waiting for a transplant or become their lifelong treatment solution. Specifically across the phases, we're looking to advance wearable, implantable, bioengineered, xenotransplant or chimera solutions, or even other approaches that aren't yet conceived. So I want to emphasize that your approaches to this aren't limited by any notions that we have now. We know that this will require a broad range of multidisciplinary innovators to collaboratively develop solutions for replicating kidney function. So we're striving to bring in cross-disciplinary and multinational innovators that can look at the challenges in creating an artificial kidney from unique perspectives. This is all kicking off in phase 1 by seeking both component and integrated solutions, with the second phase to follow next year that will emphasize the integration of prototype solutions. So here's a little more detail about the specifics of the competition phases. As I said earlier, phase 1 is focused on enabling solutions, which could be components or integrated solution. We anticipate that $4 million will be distributed among 8 winners during this phase. Phase 2 is an integration of prototype solutions. We're anticipating that $6 million will be distributed among winners. It's focused on the integration of prototype solutions into an artificial kidney or already integrated solutions. It's open to both eligible entrants from phase 1 and new eligible entrants can also enter this phase. So you don't have to participate in phase 1 to enter phase 2. We hope there will be additional phases after that, and to further accelerate the development of artificial kidneys. And KidneyX works to hope to secure additional funding for all potential phases of the competition. But of course, this will be at the discretion of HHS and the American Society of Nephrology. So with that, I think I'm done, and I'll turn it back to Julia.
Great, thank you so much, Dr. Cedar. I really appreciate you sharing a little more about KidneyX and the overarching goals of the Artificial Kidney Prize. It's just really great to keep this monumentous goal in mind as we get into the more nitty-gritty details of what we're asking for potential solvers to submit as part of phase 1. So with that in mind, the following section will focus on what solvers will need to submit for their enabling solutions in phase 1. So as Dr. Cedar mentioned earlier, the Artificial Kidney Prize aims to encourage multiple forms of solutions that could be considered artificial kidneys. So for the purposes of this competition, we've defined an artificial kidney as a solution that replicates or replaces multiple kidney functions and is wearable, like a mechanical device, or implantable, such as bioengineered, a xenotransplant, chimera, or other mechanical solutions. Other concepts not yet conceived will definitely be considered, as Dr. Cedar emphasized, but it is important to note that dialysis machines and technologies similar to that, whether in the home or in a center, are not considered artificial kidneys in the context of this competition. Solutions can and should cover a wide range of topic areas, which are listed here in the solution focus areas on the bottom left-hand corner of your slide. Many of these have further details on the Kidney Health Initiative technology roadmap, which we have linked in our resources page on the website, and is a really great source to start if you are looking for more specific target areas for the solution focus areas. Additionally, it's also worth repeating that we are not expecting anyone to develop a complete artificial kidney in the period of 5 months. So phase 1 is specifically asking for what we're calling enabling solutions, which are either component solutions or integrated prototype solutions. So when I say component solution, you can consider that like a building block that would ultimately support a greater system or a greater artificial kidney. But we also included integrated solutions, which are likely to support multiple kidney functions, or like a xenotransplant organ, have innate multifunctionality, but are still in development. So again, those are kind of the two sides of what we have considered enabling solutions for phase 1. That being said, regardless of the type of solution or enabling solution that your team is submitting, each team must submit in phase 1 a demonstrated scientific and technical proofs of concept, including a visual or video of an actual proof of concept, as well as supporting data, in addition to your development plans. And this is designed to be able to incorporate both the component solutions as well as more integrated solutions. So those are kind of the definitions of what we're expecting in this competition. And here is an overview of what each team will actually submit. So you can find the submission content on our submission page. akp.kidneyx.org. I believe my colleague will be sharing these links in the chat to make sure everyone has quick access to them. So in addition to abstracts and team information, which are fairly straightforward, we ask that each team upload a PDF of up to 20 pages covering the areas that we have noted on this slide. So I'll go over a little bit of those in brief. You can see that this submission document, we're asking you to provide a brief abstract and comment on your approach, including how it advances the state of innovation for artificial kidneys. We'll ask for a solution description to describe the proof of concept and development plans. And this should include, like I said, a visual or video linked within the documentation. We'll also ask you to include a summary of patient input and potential impact, and then a few sections on the process. So an overview of the research development progress and process, plans for future integration, and descriptions of the approach to team and program management. And again, this can all be found on our submission page on the website if you want to delve into more of the details here. So now that you know what you're submitting, we can move on to how each submission will be evaluated. So we will have a multidisciplinary judging panel, which will evaluate eligible phase 1 submissions. The judging panel will include representation from patients, nephrologists, as well as experts from across regulatory, commercialization, and technical domains to make sure each submission is evaluated from multiple different lenses. They will each score each team's submission using the evaluation criteria on this slide, which are also on the challenge website under evaluation criteria. So I'll give a quick description and voiceover to each of the evaluation criteria sections. First, the functionality replication. Judges will be looking for how much there is confidence in the enabling solution to safely replace or support one or more kidney functions, and very importantly, to sustain this functionality continuously over time. Judges will also assess integration potential of each submission, which means the potential utility of a solution to be a foundational solution for an artificial kidney, as I defined an artificial kidney for the purposes of this competition, and the clarity of plans to collaborate with any other innovators or experts in further development. Judges will also assess the technical maturity of each submission, which we have defined as the likelihood of a solution to be ready to integrate into an existing solution or enter first in human clinical trials within 4 years. Next, judges will also assess the patient impact, meaning the potential for the solution to improve quality of life and clinical outcomes for a broad spectrum of patients. And this would include, differing access to care and different comorbidities. Really want to make sure that solutions take into account different types of patients and their impact. Judges will also assess innovation, meaning the level of advancement beyond current methods and technologies, and as well as the development progress and development plan, which is the amount of progress completed relative to funding received, as well as the rigor of future plans. And finally, judges will also assess the commercial viability of each submission, which would be the potential for the solution to attract external investment, be produced sustainably at scale, and obtain payer reimbursement once commercialized. So now that we've gone through what the competition expects from potential solvers, also wanted to highlight some of the resources that are available to potential solvers as well. So one of these is the solver community, which we have developed for this competition. I believe my colleague will share this in the chat as well. As you've likely seen throughout this presentation, and as Dr. Cedar mentioned earlier, the Artificial Kidney Prize emphasizes the importance of collaboration and teaming. We recognize that kidneys are incredibly complicated organs and incredibly important to sustaining life. We really believe that it will take a village of scientific experts and innovative minds to come up with a really viable solution in such a short period of time. And so based on the goals of the Artificial Kidney Prize to encourage collaboration and teaming, we have created a solver community so that solvers can share expertise, interest in collaboration, and consider even collaborating or partnering with one another. So what does this look like? On the right-hand side of your screen is a screen grab of what our solver community forum looks like on the challenge website. Here you can fill out your interest level in the Artificial Kidney Prize, indicate your areas of expertise, talk a little bit more about that, and any specifics on what you may be looking for in potential collaborators if you are looking for them. And then all of this information will be collected into a private spreadsheet, and we will share that with members of the community who have opted in on a regular basis starting after this information session. And the way we envision you using this spreadsheet is you can use it as a resource to see who else is interested in participating in the competition, who else is out there that may not necessarily be in your personal network. So that could look something like an individual with a great idea who's looking to join a team who can execute this, or a more established team looking for specific expertise that they may not know. You know, if a team is in the US and there's an expert in Australia, they may not have crossed paths before. Or it could be something like two smaller teams find out that their solutions are really compatible and even greater than the sum of their parts. However, just to emphasize, the solver community is really what you make of it, and it can be a truly rich resource for participants in this competition. And we hope you can use it as a tool to see what's out there in terms of different expertise. But this is just one of several resources that we have on hand with you for this competition. So here is a quick summary of the other entrant resources we have on our website. So in addition to some future technical webinars, which will be coming up, which we'll talk about a little later, the challenge website is home to over 25 resources, ranging from technical resources, resources to aid in regulatory navigation, and resources to support patient interaction. This will likely be particularly helpful to those of you who may be newer to the kidney health space, particularly the KHI technology roadmap pictured on the slide here. And we have linked on the website, which is a really great place to start in order to really set the ground for what are the technical milestones for creating artificial kidneys. So now that we've gone through the submission content and the resources available to you all as potential solvers, we wanted to call out a few details on how to actually submit your solution. So first, an important reminder that the deadline for submissions for phase 1 is at 4:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on March 24th, 2021. And winners are anticipated to be announced in July, which will then be followed by phase 2, as Dr. Cedar mentioned. A quick note on eligibility. The challenge encourages solutions from solvers across the globe. There are a few exceptions noted on this slide, but we do encourage you to look at the rules, terms, and conditions if you have any questions on eligibility, as well as the conditions that need to be met for receiving a prize from HHS or ASN. Additionally, a quick note on intellectual property. The key note here is that entrants will retain ownership of all of their concepts and IP. But again, I'll direct you to the official rules, terms, and conditions on the challenge website for further information on this topic. Or if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. I'll include our email at the end of this presentation for any specific questions you may have, and we'll make sure that we confirm that everything is in line. So how to actually submit. In order to submit to phase 1, you'll click the submit button on the far right-hand side of the Artificial Kidney Prize website, and that will take you to the submission form. So here you can create an account on Luminary Lightbox, which is our competition management platform and how we will eventually see all of your submissions. So here you have to create an account and identify a team lead as well as any other team members. Then complete your submission by the deadline, including the upload of your submission documentation, and then click submit. So you can save drafts in this page and continue to edit the submission on the site. But once you submit, you cannot, through the website, make any further adjustments. So that final submission means that it will not let you log in and continue to edit your submission. So thank you all so much for joining us today. We will have a Q&A session starting now, but just wanted to give a few reminders and next steps before we get started. Next, we'll ask you to, again, encourage you to sign up for the solver community to explore teaming opportunities and see who else is interested in participating. You'll have to create a Luminary Lightbox account in order to submit your solution. And again, please feel free to contact akp@asn-online.org with any questions, whether it's technical or about eligibility, intellectual property, etc., as well as sign up for the KidneyX newsletter, and we'll make sure to send out future competition updates. So with that in mind, we'll start the Q&A now. We have a few coming into the box, but please feel free to continue to ask questions throughout the remainder of this session. However, ahead of asking those questions, we would greatly appreciate it if you participated in a few polls that I'll share through the Zoom feature. They should be popping up on your screen now. I'll give you all about a minute to answer this first one, and then we'll move on to the next. Really just want to assess, how best can we serve the solver community and serve you all in future webinars, as well as get a gut check of how we can best aid you in further competitions. All right, I'll give a few more seconds on this question in case anybody else wants to answer. Again, this one is on future topics that would be most helpful if they were addressed in future virtual sessions. All right, I'll close this poll now. And next we have an optional question that I will launch here, which is asking on your intent to participate in the Artificial Kidney Prize. We will absolutely not hold this to you. It's really just for informational purposes, but we are curious to see where the intention is. And again, I'll give another minute or so. All right, I'll give another few seconds for any people continuing to answer the poll, and then we'll get into our Q&A portion of this information session. All right, thank you so much. Appreciate you all taking the time to answer those polls. And now we'll dive into questions. Again, if you continue to have questions, please put them in the Q&A box and we will continue forward. So first is a question we received both before the webinar as well as in our live Q&A. And that question is around the lines of, how is this different from KidneyX competitions like Redesign Dialysis Phase 1 or Phase 2? And asking about the different types of solutions we're asking for. So wearable, portable dialysis, etc. So as Dr. Cedar noted, Redesign Dialysis Phases 1 and 2 focus on improving the current state of dialysis, and the Artificial Kidney Prize aims to accelerate artificial kidney solutions beyond current dialysis methods. So for this competition, artificial kidneys may be wearable, implantable, bioengineered, xenotransplant chimera organ, any other ones that we haven't mentioned, but we are encouraging solvers to push beyond simply making improvements to dialysis. Next, a question that we got asked is, how do I know if my device or solution is applicable for this competition? For example, will a better filter by itself or biomaterials by itself be sufficient to compete? Or are we looking for functional systems? So for that, I'll hand that over to Mark. I believe he's on the line from American Society of Nephrology.
Julia, can you just give me, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I apologize everybody for the technical difficulties on my side. Regarding this question, I think it's a very good question. We welcome components that could integrate into an artificial kidney being wearable or implantable. If you are going to submit, say, an application just focused on one component, it needs to be in context of a wearable or implantable device or prototype. I don't think we want to be the ones to integrate your component into somebody else's. So if you have, if your component really adds increased reliability, safety, or performance to an integrated prototype, that's something that we would be interested in seeing. So please make sure to include that as justification for how your component would actually link back and be eligible for the Artificial Kidney Prize. If you do have specific questions, please feel free to email us at akp@asn-online.org. That's akp@asn-online.org.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I really appreciate that answer. I think just to really encourage that we do want to see a really wide variety of solutions, both ones that can support artificial kidneys or ones that are kind of already integrated or already support multiple kidney functions. So really encourage, if you feel that your solution can support an artificial kidney, really encourage you to submit. So another question that we are getting is, do we need to provide a prototype and proof of concept in phase 1, or can we provide concepts and ideas that will be developed into the prototype in phase 2 of the competition? So again, phase 1 submissions should include demonstrated scientific and technical proofs of concept, as well as detailed development plans. So for a little bit further information, you can see the submission form on the competition website, which will spell out everything that we're asking for. But as Mark said, if there is anything that you have a specific question on or specific to your area of study, we're happy to answer that question via email or in a follow-up information session. And then we also got a question of, can a faculty member submit the proposal on behalf of him or herself? And does it need to go through the university contract and grant? So what we'll say to that is the competition is open to both legal entities as well as individuals, provided that they meet the eligibility requirements. And again, encourage you to really look at the rules, terms, and conditions for a full spelled out version of that, or email us with further questions. You will need to work in this specific instance through your university policies. So some universities require all IP and awards generated through their employment have to go through their contract and grants office, and some don't. So I would encourage you both to look at the competition rules and conditions, as well as any institution you may be working with. Another question we've seen are industry partners advantageous for phase 1? So one of the areas we've talked about is that successfully advancing artificial kidney approaches will require a breadth of expertise. So solvers are definitely encouraged to collaborate with other individuals or teams that complement their existing strengths. So any of that can fit in the submission content or evaluation criteria will definitely be a great thing to include. You can also visit the Solver community page on the challenge website, provide your contact information and research interests, and then we will share any that information out with the solver community on a bi-weekly basis. So if there's anyone or any team that would be interested in, that you would be interested in collaborating with, you can reach out to them directly. Another question that we're getting is, can we submit solutions to both the COVID-19 Kidney Care Challenge and this? So short answer is yes. Submitting a solution to the COVID-19 Kidney Care Challenge does not impact eligibility to submit to the Artificial Kidney Prize. And you can take a look at the COVID-19 Challenge webpage and the rules, terms, and conditions for any specific information on eligibility for that competition as well as this competition. However, I will say that the scope of both awards is substantially different. So definitely make sure that whatever solution you are submitting fits the evaluation criteria of each competition. Another question that we are getting is about previous KidneyX prizes. So can previous winners of KidneyX prizes participate and win in this phase? And absolutely, previous KidneyX prize winners are absolutely eligible to submit, provided they meet all other eligibility criteria noted in the rules, terms, and conditions. However, as previously noted, the AKP is distinct in its goal from redesign dialysis and from the Patient Innovator Challenge. So submissions will be evaluated against Artificial Kidney Prize evaluation criteria, which we talked about earlier and is on the competition website. However, we absolutely encourage anyone who's previously participated in a KidneyX competition to participate in this phase. So another question we're seeing, which I'll hand over to Mark, is what kinds of proof of concept results are you looking for?
Yeah, no, thanks, Julie. I think this is also a good question. It really depends on really what you're proposing. If it's, you know, we're not looking just for a design or anything just on a PowerPoint. If you are, for instance, describing a component that could be integrated into an artificial kidney, we would like to see some lab bench data or even more mature data that supports the claims and the potential for being integrated. Obviously, if you're already working with an integrated prototype, we would like to see how you've integrated that and any preliminary performance data showing that, you know, kind of validating what you're claiming as a state of maturity. So it could be bench, it could be beyond, any type of proof of concept. Again, it depends on what you're proposing. Each submission must include at least one clear visual, you know, whether it's data, whether it's a video file, validating or confirming that you've actually achieved proof of concept. For additional submission requirements, please refer to the submission form and send any questions again to the email address that Claire had put in the chat. It's akp@asn-online.org. Julia, I'll pass it back to you.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, again, just really encourage if you feel like your solution would be beneficial to an artificial kidney, as long as it fits the submission content and you feel that it will stand up well to the evaluation criteria, is what we really ask of our solvers in order to see a really great multidisciplinary breadth of solutions. So another question that we have gotten is, should we use the resources mentioned with regard to guidance as we prepare our submission? So to confirm, solvers are not required to use the resources provided. You don't have to necessarily mention them in your solution, but we do believe that they may be helpful in developing your submission. So whether that's someone coming from outside the kidney health space who really wants to dive into technical aspects of what an artificial kidney should look like and the functions it should replicate, or any medical development team who would like a little bit more insight into the regulatory pathways, as well as how to incorporate patient feedback both into your development as well as assessing the impact of your solution. So again, no, resources are not required to be consulted, but we do hope that you will take a look at them as it is a REACH resource. Another question is, would animal test results be considered proof of concept? Mark, would you like to dive into the specifics of that? I think the short answer is definitely yes.
Yes, yeah, the short answer is yes. It could be anything from bench to animal data to human clinical data. That would all be considered proof of concept.
Great, thank you. So a question that we're also getting here is, if we submit an application looking to integrate multiple concepts, would you potentially split funding for one component rather than integration? So as we've spoke about before, collaboration is absolutely encouraged for this competition. And the competition is open to both components, so those kind of individual as well as integrated prototypes. However, in the rules, terms, and conditions, any submission must designate a single team lead for purposes of eligibility determination and is eligible to win a single prize. So any prize winnings will be distributed to the designated team lead, and then that team lead then can do further distribution to team members. So in terms of receiving the prize, again, that will be just the designated team lead. So if you have one team, you will get one team lead, you will receive one prize. And again, many of these questions that we're seeing, we can answer in general, but as we all know, everyone is very specific based on their situation, what institution they're working for, what their solution looks like. And so we really encourage you, as we said before, either to check out the rules, terms, and conditions for more detailed responses and ways to interpret it for your specific situation. And also please do feel free to email us. I believe Claire, my colleague, shared the email in the chat, but again, that's akp@asn-online.org. And we'd be happy to figure out any question that you may have for us. So another question is, what is the budget per project or budget per phase? So for the first phase of the competition, we have up to $4 million in prize awards, which will be distributed among 8 phase 1 winners, again, at the discretion of HHS and ASN, informed by a multidisciplinary judging panel's evaluation. So based on the judges and the judging panel will send recommendations to HHS and ASN on who the winners will be. And then that up to $4 million will be awarded for phase 1. And it will be a similar process for phase 2, where up to $6 million in prize awards will be distributed among the winners at the discretion of HHS and ASN. And the next question I'll send over to Mark, which is, does KidneyX use a TRL scale?
The judges will have to determine if you're going to use a TRL scale. You would have to validate where you're putting, where you're benchmarking your technology. I would use a TRL scale in terms of your proof of concept to demonstrate that. And again, you know, if you just label it as a TRL3, that doesn't mean we're going to take it as a TRL3. The judges will want to see that proof. You know, we would encourage you also to look at the Kidney Health Initiative, which is another program within the American Society of Nephrology, our 2018 technology roadmap for innovative approaches to renal replacement therapy, to also look at kind of what we had assessed earlier as kind of the state of the science. But it really is up to the applicant in terms of, you know, where they judge the maturity of their technology and validating that through their proof of concept.
Yeah, I'll just add to that, again, totally agree with Mark, and that for really solid insight into what we will be asking the judges to look at, the evaluation criteria provides some really great insight into what judges will be looking for and how you can design your submission to answer those questions and really consider what will be most valuable for for submitting to this competition. I also see a question from saying, is it okay to include additional funding sources in your proposal? And I would say, yes, we've actually asked in the submission content for your development plans, as well as where is your, how you've developed in comparison to funding. So if you think that is a valuable asset to your submission, we absolutely encourage you to put that into your submission on our website. Another question we're getting is a little bit more about the solver community, so how it can be used and how to, how to sign up for it. So again, Claire would have shared the solver community link in our chat. You can visit that solver community page, which is right on our website underneath resources. And you will provide your confirmation, contact information, research interest, and then KidneyX will begin sending out that spreadsheet of information on a bi-weekly basis. So if there is anybody or any team that you would be interested in collaborating with, you can absolutely reach out to them directly. We, like I said, will be sharing this on a regular cadence starting after, probably next week after this information session. Another question we're getting is how is this different from, say, an NIH SBIR or R01 type grant? And I'll start off initially saying that KidneyX does use prize competitions to engage a broad community of researchers, innovators, investors to accelerate the pace of kidney care innovation. That is the primary goal, one of the primary goals of KidneyX. Prize competitions are by design a little more flexible, and they complement to traditional funding mechanisms like grants or contracts. So for example, entrants are awarded prize money based on judging panel evaluation of their solution. And there's no stipulations how the prize money is used after it is awarded. So that gives you a lot more flexibility and hopefully encourages a wider array of new ideas that can allow for faster development of high potential solutions. Anna or Mark, do you have anything that you'd like to add on the difference between a KidneyX prize competition versus a more typical grant?
Yeah, I would say probably on the front end, the application process will be different. I would highly recommend you would look into the Lightbox solution to see how the application is structured. It would not be similar to how an NIH type of proposal, whether it's SBIR or an R01 works. So please look at that, and I would highly recommend not just copying and pasting from an NIH grant and putting it directly in. The questions might be a little bit different in structure. We will, as mentioned before, have a review panel of experts that will be looking at it. So that would be pretty similar. These will be peer reviewed at that level. In terms of this, as mentioned earlier and as described in the rules and regs, regulations, the prize competition and the prize mechanism is a little bit different than traditional NIH R or kind of the art awards, as well as the SBIRs, whether it's R21 or R33s. I would again recommend that you look a little bit more into what is a prize and how is it different, and the details will be described there.
Great, thank you, Mark. Appreciate a little bit more color. We're also getting some more questions on the prizes awarded for this phase, asking if there will be a certain number of prizes and how they will be distributed. So again, as we've stated on the competition website, this phase will award up to $4 million in prize awards and will be distributed among up to 8 phase 1 winners at the discretion of HHS and ASN, informed by, as Mark mentioned, that multidisciplinary judging panel and their evaluation of each submission. So it will be similar for phase 2, with up to $6 million in prize awards distributed among phase 2 winners. But again, that's still at the discretion of HHS and ASN in terms of the award allotment. And then I'll turn another question over to Mark, as he's been so helpful so far. With regard to human trials, which we mentioned as part of this presentation, one person asked, when are they expected to start, all things considered? I think that is asking if there's a certain expectation of when we would ask solvers to be in human clinical trials.
Yeah, I think you know, if you're ready for human trials and you've gone through FDA to go and they approve the use of, there's a phase 1 clinical trial, then we'd be delighted to see that. We would be also a little bit surprised, but maybe that's something that would help us understand the landscape of the maturity of the technologies. I don't right now, we don't expect that any within the phase 1 would be ready for first in human trials, but we'd be delighted if there are some. Again, we won't designate or be able to say that you're ready for a phase 1 clinical trial. That would have to go through FDA to deem whether it's ready. But if you have proof that it's at that stage of maturity, we'd be interested in seeing that as part of the application.
Absolutely. For phase 1, we have not benchmarked where we'll ask developers or solvers to have their research at, just asking for those development and technical proofs of concept. So whatever that means to you, we would love to see. As Mark said, if that means human clinical trials, that is always great, but we have no specific benchmark for when human clinical trial or for phase 1 human clinical trials or as part of the Artificial Kidney Prize phase 1. We also had a question again on the different types of artificial kidneys that we'll be accepting for this competition. One of those is a wearable dialysis system an artificial kidney for the purposes of this competition? I'll hand that over to Mark.
Yeah, we know, there's some large commercial entities, and the home dialysis market, which includes portable dialysis, is already there. Our intent, if you are, we haven't seen any late stage wearable type of dialysis, and I'll let you define, how you define wearable, whether it's a backpack or a fanny pack, or how you define it as wearable. If you have a solution that is wearable, that is within our eligibility criteria. So we do encourage those. Again, that really will be up to our judges to determine whether you've really kind of gone beyond incremental change in terms of the state of dialysis. And we hope you can. We hope you're interested in applying.
Okay. Thank you for that, Mark. Another question we're getting is about the timeline and our development plan assessment. So one person asked, do we have 5 to 6 months to carry out what we propose in the grant, or do we have longer until phase 2? So what we're asking for in the phase 1 submission would include the development plan of the next 3 to 4 years, the plans that you would anticipate to advance your solution within the goals of the prize. So not asking you to hit specific benchmarks ahead of phase 2, but we really just want to see what you believe your trajectory is given funding, research, development over the next 3 to 4 years and towards eventual human clinical trials or integration with an artificial kidney. And again, just as a reminder, in terms of when will winners be announced, for phase 1, we're anticipating winners will be announced in July of 2021 after, again, that March deadline. And then we have some more anticipated milestones for all phases 1 to 2, as well as potential additional phases of the Artificial Kidney Prize available on the Challenger website. I also just wanted to mention we're definitely seeing a number of questions that are specific to a certain type of technology approach or what an individual team is developing. And we really encourage you to submit those more specific questions to the competition team at akp@asn-online.org. And we would be happy to provide you with a timely response that's a little bit more tailored to your specific question as we can get into more details there. And we also encourage you to stay tuned for future webinars that will focus on more technical topics, which you all helped in providing some input for. And with that, we actually only have a minute left. Just wanted to say thank you all so much for joining this information session. We're really excited to see what you with incredible scientific minds can come up with and are already currently developing. If we did not get to your question, we do apologize due to the time constraints, but we will be posting FAQs as well as a recording of this information session on the webinar with the associated slides on our competition website. And so again, if there are any further questions that we can answer for you, please feel free to email us or simply check out the rules, terms, and conditions page on our website to see if there's any additional information that can help you there. And with that, again, thank you all so much for joining this information session, and we are looking forward to seeing your submissions in March.